Hey guys, this is miicrow here. I know that the devs recently commented on how they were nerfing the Runeglass, like alt charge based stuff, within New World, and I have a way to show how much this was nerfed, or as you'll see later, was actually not nerfed. Um, Thanks to myself being smart a few years ago. But what I wanted to kind of talk about today was just kind of what these effects are, and then also I have a sheet where I can kind of go through and kind of go through common sources of alt charge and like kind of fundamental issues that New World has in terms of um why building alt is like so kind of gimmicky right now, and kind of some thoughts on how it could be better. So this is the effect that gets applied by a Runeglass dot. In this case, it's the arcane one called Hex. Uh, Basically, what this does is it gives you an amount of rune charge per tick, and there's 3 ticks for this. So the idea is every single attack is giving you zero point 0.3 rune charge, right? And you need roughly 54 total rune charge in order to get ult. It's somewhere in the 50s. It's not in the, like, you can't data mine it. This is just like from testing and people have calculated it's somewhere in the 50s. I think 54 was the last number I heard. So the idea behind this is it will increase the amount of ult charge that you're getting per attack, and then that will help you get ult faster. And then this is really important for any build that is ult centric, which for war players, it's basically your Great Axe Warhammer. Like, you need to get ult as fast as possible in order to get value, so it doesn't make sense to, for example, use the new armor penetration stuff if you're not getting ult fast enough for crashes, and the way to get ult faster would be using like this kind of Runeglass. If you are in a spot where you are getting ult fast enough, it might not necessarily, you might not need to run this, right? In that case, maybe for your Great Axe you go up for armor pen, and then for your Warhammer you go for ult charge, or you kind of balance that, and you just need to play with it to the point where you're always getting your Detto before the crash is called. But if you need to get it faster, you add in Runeglass. If you don't, then you don't. But what I did a while ago is I made a spreadsheet. Like, this is from a bit over a year ago at this point, of all the status effects in the game, and how much rune charge they're getting. And I did this through New World Buddy. So you can go to status effects, and then you can export all this and just look for the source rune on apply, and source rune charge on health, and source rune charge on tick, and like these options. You could filter them in here. You don't actually have to export it if you don't want to. But I exported it because it's a little bit easier to work with, I would argue, in like Excel or some other tool like that. And you can see like certain effects, like, barb netting gives you a lot of ult charge, burns tend to give you a lot of ult charge. A meteor shower per person that is inside of that is giving you a bunch of ult charge. Smolder is giving you a bunch of ult charge. So there's like a lot of these different effects, and these dot based effects are the ones that tend to give you the most ult charge in New World. I'm curious if anyone knows what the actual tick rate of New World is, because I'm not familiar with that. I believe this just like every time a dot updates, which most of the dots update like once per second, that will give you this much ult charge per person that's in there. And the big thing with this is it works off of AoEs, so you can get ult charge really, really fast. And it kind of snowballs to a certain extent. But getting to this, so these effects up here, so I'm sorting by rune charge per tick, right? So these are like, hey, for dots, how does, how do the Runeglass is like rank overall? And for Runeglass, like, they tend to be ranked pretty high. Like, these are, top 40 of in the effects per game in terms of building ult. So they're definitely not bad in terms of building like rune charge per tick, right? I keep saying ult and rune charge, but I mean the same thing. And in 2025, if we go down to the same effects, so if I search for this effect in this other sheet, you can see it pops up right around here. We have the same order. You see these actually got a little bit better. So it was like, what, 36 through 41 before, and now it's 35 through 40. So there's one other effect that like managed to drop off. But you see how this like number on the far right here, the source rune charge unticked, how that did not change? What this means is you're getting the same amount of ult charge for this patch as you were for previous patches, per per dot tick with the Runeglass. So effectively, I'm kind of confused what the nerf was, or if there actually was a nerf to the Runeglass, because right now, from a data mine perspective, this seems like a misnomer. The other thing that's been something that has been getting explored a little bit more recently is a good amount of the changes that they've done are on the server side. If they're on the server side, you can't actually see the values and what they change compared to the client. But then the consequence of that is like the more math is done on the server side, the worse the game will generally feel, because that means you're asking the server to, update your character position, all these things. And it's like one of the reasons why New World feels like relatively bad on ping compared to other games within like a similar PvP-ish genre. In the sense, like if I play Overwatch, for example, on 220 ms, it doesn't actually feel that bad, and it feels pretty responsive as long as you don't have packet loss. But like if I play New World and EU, it's a completely different ball game, and I think it's like because of like one of these reasons of in terms of like the net code and how they're doing a little bit more of the work on the server side versus the client side in other games. And it is an MMO, so there's a lot of effects going on, so I kind of get that. But so the basically it's like I don't know for sure if this is accurate, but from the client side and from what I can tell, there was no nerf in this case. And the other part here that might be interesting is just going over some of the effects that are really good in terms of getting ult charge. So like powder burn would be generally a good one, but the thing with this is like you'd have to be able to hit multiple people if you want to get ult charge really, really fast. And same thing with a barbed net. Like barbed net lasts a really long time. It's a pretty low cooldown. Or I guess it doesn't last a long time. It's only 3 seconds, but it's a low cooldown, so that's generally a good one. Powder burn obviously lasts a pretty long time. It would be kind of, what might be kind of fun? Could I add another column here? I kind of want to do duration times rune charge, and then autofill that, and then sort by this new column. Assuming that I can reapply my filter. So this would be like total rune charge over here. So you can see like per effect that's applied, like what's relatively good. And then I can hide some of these other columns so that we can actually like see what's going on a little bit. Let's hide these for now. Okay. So powder burn, really, really good in terms of building ult. Okay. Musket ultimate headshot bleed. So that's like the final musket perk. Pretty good at building ult. Spear skewer. Pretty good at building ult. Sacred ground on life staff is pretty good at building ult. This one's really interesting too because this applies to a bunch of different people at the same time. So this is like actually kind of scary versus like skewer is generally a single target ability. Rain of Arrows bleed applies to a lot of people at the same time. That's generally like a pretty scary one. So it seems like life staff builds ult super, super fast, which checks out. And it's like one of the reasons why they've been like generally harder to kill at the higher levels of play. It's because they're getting ult so fast, they can just spam Stoneform, kind of walk away from anything. Explosive shot. I'll try to link this table in the description too. I'll just make it view only so people can't like mess it up. But you guys can play with this and kind of figure out which ones are interesting here as well. So Barb Net is up there. Poison Shot, yeah, it kind of makes sense. And this applies to a lot of people. Meteor Shower kind of makes sense. Void Gauntlets. Heal actually gives you a lot of ult charge. It's kind of interesting because a lot of people will just pop it early for the extra damage boost, but if you actually let it come back and heal people, that could give you a good source of ult charge. So if you're a Void Gauntlet on point, maybe that's something worth considering if you're trying to get your ult back pretty fast. Rapier's Bleed, kind of only niche for PvE, and at this point it seems like it's getting heavily nerfed to the PvE to the point where it might not be completely viable, but at least it's good. Splitting Grenade, that was an old perk that people haven't really used in a while, but is still pretty good. So where is my Runeglass? So my Runeglass actually rates in a pretty similar spot where it generally is giving you 0.2 per tick, and then the number we're looking for, right, is like roughly 54 in total. So there's some of these effects like Musket's Powder Burn that is like on a completely different order of magnitude compared to everything else in terms of how far it's getting ult charge. But then the main thing is you're looking for effects that apply AoEs that are also giving you a lot of like total rune charge is what I'd say. Uh, oh, and all these other ones are not applying it like overall, like per thing, but there might be a different metric here. So there's like I've been looking at source rune charge on tick. There's also source rune charge on apply. So when you apply an effect, you get a certain amount of rune charge as well. But this is like a one-time thing. So if we sort this way, that's where the IG kind of stuff comes in. So when that effect is applied, you're getting a good amount of ult charge, but then like once it's applied, it's like a little bit less, I guess, is the way to interpret this. I feel like I'm not interpreting that right though, because duration's -1, which means that it's going on forever. While you're within it, it's every single tick. It should be applying a 1.3 because it's like reapplying that effect. So I guess it's situational depending on the ability. Light's Embrace matters. Heavy on hit matters. Remove on heavy rune charge. So like if you remove an effect. None of these seem that impactful. This is shirking in power, or not shirking in power. This is like the elemental shirking effect. Detonate heal and you pop it. Essence Rupture AoE heal heals you for ult charge. That's kind of interesting. But I think it's only on the first hit, right? And then that's it. So it'd be kind of interesting to see how that applies. If you have someone hit someone that has this effect on them, does it give you ult charge, or how does that exactly work? Splash of Light is up there. If you have attunements that are up here, when they apply, they give you a little bit. So it's like there's a bunch of like little effects. Chain used to be really nice because it applied to multiple things, but they kind of removed that. But the TLDR of like this is just looking at status effects too. I'm not looking at like what weapons and like per hit that you apply with weapons. Like this is the old data. I could update this and put it in the description, but like the weapons were your main source, but it's about finding these other little things that are applying per tick. Then that tended to be the best way to build ult pretty fast. So I don't know, kind of interesting. Curious if you guys think it's interesting too. But the big takeaway for the video is from a data mine perspective, there wasn't a change to Runeglass, and I'm kind of curious why that was mentioned in the patch notes as being nerfed. But let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the next one.